Okay, so you're here in Sao Paulo and you
Right.
just arrived yesterday.
Yes.
So what's the main purpose of your visit this time to Brazil?
It's, we've announced opening an office here in Sao Paulo. We did that on August 1st. So part of my visit is to look at what the status of that is, how we are developing, building an organization, meeting our clients, our key clients, including GE and others, to see how we're making progress. And generally, meeting other players in the market also to understand exactly how the local market is behaving, the types of things we need to put into place, infrastructure and organizationally, to grow. We want to build a big business here, hopefully one day.
Okay, and you mentioned GE as one of your clients
Sure.
that's already here in Brazil.
Sure.
What is the sort of area of business focus that you're looking at? I mean, have you got do you have any other clients already, or what sort of area are you looking at now?
We have a couple of other clients already. Typically multinational clients that have offices in Brazil, who we are serving around the world and who are now saying, please serve us in Brazil as well. Typically today it's going to be back office, finance and accounting type shared services work. It's at the very early stage. We've got about 40 employees here today, so that's not bad.
For just over a month of operation, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think we've had, some of them have been working on Oracle and SAP type projects for a period of time and have been doing that for a while, again, for some of our customers like GE. Our aim will be to continue to expand that pie and that product pie. I think over time, analytics will be an interesting area. Capital markets and technology would be an interesting area that we can do, that we can look at. So there are many areas that we will expand into. Right now, finance and accounting is the first one that we'll look at.
Okay, and the F&A clients. I mean, is your operation in Brazil? Will it generally serve clients in Brazil, or are you looking at mainly providing Brazilian resource to
Right.
multinationals?
No, I think initially it's multinationals, but over time, very much the key is to bring our process expertise and our technology expertise, put it on the ground for local companies. So, Brazil has some fantastic companies, some really terrific growth companies which are very, very global. We think there's a unique opportunity to serve them really well. We hope our expertise is valuable to them, and so we want to bring all of that to the table. Brazil will be a local market, and that's how we'll play.
Okay. And clearly, if you've just opened operations here, you must have a positive feeling about the market in Brazil.
Absolutely.
What sort of analysis did you do? I mean, what made you decide to come here?
I think we didn't do a deep analysis, and I don't think you need to. Quite honestly, I think we could have spent a lot of money doing deep analysis. I'm not sure it would have told us something terribly different. The fact is, it's one of the largest economies in the world, growing very fast. If we want to be a truly global player, we should be part of it. Secondly, I felt that the local market was very fragmented. So the list of competitors and the number of people competing here are fairly fragmented across the board. There are many companies doing little bits of work. That, to me, always spells opportunity. Thirdly, companies here are truly global. They're grappling with growth. When companies are grappling with growth, they're very amenable to saying, I don't want to have to do everything myself. Someone else can take my back office, someone else can take those issues and do them for me. Again, that spells opportunity for us. So, no, we haven't done any deep analysis, but to me, not participating in Brazil is almost like saying you don't want to be a global company,
So it feels like the place to be right now.
Absolutely. And when you look around Sao Paulo, it certainly feels like. Now, costs are getting very tough. Talent management is getting very hard. You hear that issue from every company here. Education obviously is a big issue that even if the government focuses on it, isn't going to get solved in the short term. So there's some real hurdles that you have to tackle. But the overall potential and opportunity is clearly out there for us to grab.
Okay. The economy in the US, and I suppose particularly in Europe at the moment, feels very much on the edge. Especially in Europe, it feels almost as if they're on the precipice of a very bad place.
Yes.
How is the high-tech service sector, the
Yes.
BPO market, bearing up, given that many of the clients were traditionally in the US and Europe?
I think Right now, it's fine. Right now, it's fine. I think the sector and the industry as a whole are going to have to be pretty cautious. It's a tough time. And I don't know that everybody knows how it will play out in the future. Europe in particular is a particularly, seems to be at a particularly dangerous point. And the problem with it is that it's very hard for anybody to be able to estimate what the hell's going to happen. And I think that's a larger issue, is the level of uncertainty that faces Europe. What happens in America also is not necessarily a wonderful story right now. You know, growth has stalled. Every sign is that there may be lower growth than people anticipated. I think some of it is overblown, personally. I think companies are continuing to be profitable, but the fact is that companies won't invest unless they have a greater certainty about the future. So there's a lot of uncertainty. But that's why I think for companies like us, you know, growing in other economies and growing in different parts of the world becomes increasingly important. And Brazil and China and India and all these markets are a very important part of our overall growth prospects.
So instead of developing delivery capabilities in places like Latin America, you're actually seeking new customers here then?
Actually, we are seeking both. So we want delivery capabilities, but why wouldn't we also want to serve companies today over here, including multinationals? You know, most multinationals are very clear that their growth will come from emerging economies. And so as they come here, we can be here with them to help them. And I think that makes a big difference also in terms of the business that we can do. So emerging economies is essential. You also have to play for the long term. I think you can't play for a year or 2 years. You play for 5 years. And you come out here and you have to say, look, we'll make the investments, we'll invest in the people, we'll provide the training, we'll put in the tools. And then over a 5-year period, we'll build a really strong leadership position in this business. And I think that's a very important element of what I'm trying to, why we're here today.
Okay. And then, as a business owner, as the leader of a major business that's just opened in Brazil, what is it that you would find that would maybe make your life easier? I mean, how has the experience been of trying to set up here?
Well, some of it is scary, quite honestly. I think the regulatory part, the employee costs, are tough and scary. And you know, everybody you talk to tells you how complicated it is, how complex. The liabilities associated with getting it wrong are quite immense. And to me, it's a little hard to understand why in a country as wonderful as Brazil, which is developing as fast, these things are so complicated. And why aren't they being rationalized, perhaps? But I don't know enough to make a judgment on that. But that stuff does make life difficult. Second, the biggest issue, though, very clearly is attracting and retaining talent. For that, you know, most of us are going to have to go outside Sao Paulo. We're going to have to operate in a second city or a third city somewhere else in other parts of Brazil. We can't do it here. And as a result, I think we've got some real issues around how do we train, how do we educate, how do we retain, why do people leave, why don't they stay? And by the way, I've heard this from our clients, I've heard this from companies like us, I've heard this from consulting organizations. It's the biggest impediment to growth Brazil has, I think.
Yeah. So you feel that in the same way that India has developed its second cities, especially where they have good universities, so you foresee something very similar happening here as well then?
It has to. I don't think there's an option. We're already looking for a second city. You know, we're already saying we can't be in Sao Paulo, or we certainly don't want to grow. We're small here. I don't think we want to grow much.
Or maybe remain smaller here and larger elsewhere.
That's right. And, you know, figure out that model, because I don't think you can afford to be in these big metropolises at the expense and inflation that is currently, and the war for talent is far worse here. You know, it's astonishing that Brazil doesn't have, the number of graduates coming out in Brazil is actually quite low compared to most countries in the world. So you've got to go to places where the rest of the population lives and help train them. I hope we do that as a service for Brazil, but also to serve our own needs.